You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Alright, so you're wondering, how do I listen to you guys live? How do I check it out? Well, good news, we stream every Wednesday, 9 p.m, over on Twitch. Nerddux, Nerdddux, or Nerd to Know Media on YouTube or Twitch. That's how you're going to be able to catch us. Hope to see you in the live chat.
Broadcasting from the Blanchistan Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
According to the Nerd Index, you should be upside down in a junior high toilet around the clock.
This is Sparta! All your days are belong to us. It's a drop 9,000! Stop talking all of us. Leave Benny alone! Leroy Dragon! Objection! The balls are inert. Time to
Vicinity Sedan.
And now it begins.
Hey ladies and gentlemen, we are live here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. Where else aren't we live? We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Twitch, all that good stuff. Wherever you're joining us, please join us in the chat, because it's just myself and Brin today. So an old school Nerd to Know Media show. I think we got a bit of good production here now, Brin, which is nice. Yeah. So hopefully
we've definitely done worse shows. Production.
Oh yeah, no, we've done production wise. It's kind of ropey, but it's kind of cool to do our first show of 2021.
Kicking it old school for the first episode.
Absolutely, things are kind of weird at the moment in the world in general. So we still wanted to do a show despite it. So
we're barely a fortnight. We're barely even a week. By the time this comes out, we'll be barely a fortnight into the new year, and already 2021 has turned heel on us.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. Which side is he on? Not ours. Not ours. That's 2021. I think we're gonna be in for a bit of a rough ride, but look, it is what it is.
Cue the COVID drop of doom, and there we go.
Oh man, it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah. Like, it's bad when Hulk Hogan sells for COVID,
Well, look, obviously, since you introduced yourself and myself this week, wrestling's going to happen. Did you see Raw this week? Did you know what happened on Raw this week?
I'm aware it was a Legends show, but I would argue that is it really a Legends show if Gilbert is next to Goldberg?
It was probably one of the worst things ever. And if you watched it, I'm really sorry. I apologize personally that you watched it. Let's say Hogan was there, tried to put over Drew McIntyre, put himself over, and it's like, well, this is why we don't cover wrestling anymore.
Yeah, but that's that's like a very Hulk Hogan thing to do. I'm not even shocked.
I do have to say something really funny though that happened. Apparently, he was upset that he wasn't welcomed backstage. It's like, well,
yeah,
you are a horrible person and have said horrific things on the record. So I'd be upset too.
Yeah, there was. I remember seeing the thing I heard about that was like it was a tweet from AEW women's wrestler Big Swole, where she was replying to someone just posted up an article on it, where just like the headline reads that Hulk Hogan feels that no one has respect for his accomplishments anymore, so he had a very frosty reception when he came to WWE. So, not sure that's it, the Hulkster.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's everything else that you've done, including stuff that you said off record and on the record, and just generally the way you were.
And the things you said when you thought you were off the record, but you were in fact on the record.
Absolutely. But I don't know what the value is of bringing these people out if you're not going to use them. Like they had Melina was there, and she all she said was Lucha, and that was it. You're like, you couldn't have brought her out to manage someone.
Yeah.
You know, it's just there's just all this dumb stuff that makes no sense, and I'm just like, WWE, you know, they've lost their way.
Yeah.
Look, we were talking before we went on air here about some of the projects we could do. One of them being like the worst of the decade. Yeah, which is cool, and it's
also
interesting.
The best of the decade.
Oh, and the best. Yeah, absolutely. You know. But what's interesting about that is there was this kind of rapid decline, you know, as we said, and it's just like, what's going to, you know?
I wouldn't say it was like a rapid decline. I would say it was like a very steady decline, but it just seems to be like really encapsulated. Like, you know, I mean, some people like when there's going to be argument about, there's going to be like a certain level of debate of when did the decline start? Because there would be people who would say around 2015, around 2017 is also a year I hear get thrown out, because some people are very positive about 2016. That's when they did the brand split back when Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan were running SmackDown. And like, look, I mean, 2016 had some really good stuff in it. So if you feel that way, I totally accept that. You know,
but here's the thing: I would argue that 2016 was a reaction to 2015.
It was, yeah, absolutely.
Where it's like if they had have kept going. I'll try to dig up some of the shows and put them up on the network or archive them in some way, because we talked about this in great detail at the time. Yeah. And one of the main reasons why we stopped doing a wrestling show, and one of the reasons I was hesitant to do a wrestling show, even with Dave, was because I didn't want to be so negative. Like, we'd come on every week and we talk about, you know, we try. We would be positive about SmackDown more often than not during that period, because SmackDown was watchable. But that was the benchmark, was that we were going, it's watchable, it's fine, you know. But we'd go like, but the stuff that we're really happy about would have been, you know, NXT or Lucha Underground or Ring of Honor at the time was very good. And God, I mean, Ring of Honor now is so bad. It's so bad, yeah.
It's like I mean, again, you talk about declines. Ring of Honor is, you know, what happened.
Well, I wouldn't even say Ring of Honor declined as much as its premise was picked up and done better by NXT, and then AEW kind of picked it up, and you know, it just kind of was overshadowed by itself.
I think there was a couple of, like, I definitely think that like those factors are definitely true, but I think there are other things that were at play. I think once they established a relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling, which was very healthy and was a good way to get a bigger spotlight for their top stars. But then what happened was those top stars went to greener pastures, places like New Japan full time, or they went to WWE, or now AEW. Absolutely. And they didn't have anyone to replenish that well. When they lost the likes of Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and, you know, I'm trying to think who else was in that crop, but there's a big crop.
Lethal,
Roderick Strong.
Jay Lethal, Roderick Strong, Jay Lethal, all the guys who were kind of their workhorses all just left.
Well, Jay Lethal's still there, but like they basically were left with Jay Lethal and Matt Taven.
That's what I mean. It was like literally they had a lot of people for Jay Lethal to work off, and then it's just him just there pretty much by himself.
Yeah, and like
okay,
look. I mean, again, both of us would say both of us have very positive things to say about Jay Lethal as a wrestler, but he's only one guy, and he's also not the kind of guy you can build an entire promotion around. He's a very good wrestler.
You can, what I'd say is you can if you have the time and you have the people for him to work with, which here's like if NXT didn't kick off the way it was, if they had all of that, and even Impact Wrestling now, which is kind of taken over as the number 3, right?
I mean,
and a good number 3.
Impact's been like, Impact is kind of like the inverse.
It's like the inverse of Ring of Honor. Yeah,
I would say it's the inverse of WWE, to be honest, because from 2015 it's been when they started really shedding some of their dead weight, and it's just been going from strength to strength from that point. It's funnily enough, it's like basically around the time when they signed Sami Callihan is pretty much around the time when the show started showing signs of improvement. You know, and I'm not saying it's because of him. I'm just saying it just happens to correlate.
Actually, on that point, Brin, I would say that's very astute, because let's examine why. Like with AEW, it's kind of its own thing. We've talked about that myself and Dave on many times. But just going WWE Impact Wrestling, WWE suffers from a fact that, you know, they do stuff and it doesn't make any sense, and then they forget about it.
Yep.
And then there's no overarching main story or main theme or anything to really kind of latch onto. Impact Wrestling went the opposite way, where they tell these really long-term storylines that go on for months, if not years, where you can invest in them. Yeah, you can invest in them, and it's like, well, okay, right. You know, 2020 we saw, and we're still seeing the knock-on effects of the Impact invasion into AEW. So it's one of those things where it's just like, wow, okay, this is. But it's
even. Like, look at the rivalry between Eddie Edwards and Sami Callihan, where that started.
Oh, for sure.
What, 3-4 years ago, and it's
and they brought in Ken Shamrock and everything.
Yeah,
and they've added new elements with Ken Shamrock. Yeah,
and like, I mean, I think stuff like that, like it's great. It's great for Impact, and I think Impact has, because like the criticism that's always been thrown at Impact has been that it never, once they got rid of the 6-sided ring. And they basically got rid of anything that made the X Division special. They basically neutered their identity. And now they're kind of starting to do that again, where they're really carving out an identity for themselves, but it's not so much like an identity as being like, you know, it's not necessarily an identity of like a specific style in the ring or whatever, but it's just like this intensity of going, everything we do is long form. Everything. And
you know what it is, and you know what it is, Brin. It's only for the fact that the Rewind is taking this approach that it has, where we're watching older shows. If you stick on WWE from 1999 and then watch an Impact Wrestling show, you'll be more than surprised. You'll be more than surprised at the correlations between the two.
Well,
they're very similar.
Look at the creative behind.
Very similar.
Behind Impact, Don Callis. And Don Callis and Scott D'Amore, and like, I mean, Scott has always been a gifted booker.
Absolutely. Well, it's weird, right? Because Impact would, we were covering it, and I've been covering it in Impact, there through the worst of it, and it was just like, it's so weird to see a show now that is so hyper aware of what they're doing and where they're going. Where at a time they didn't really know what they were doing, and they were kind of jumping back and forward, and it basically nearly killed the company 3 or 4 times.
Yes.
WWE, only for the fact that it's so big, I would argue that WWE should be finished now, like almost completely, if it wasn't so big. Like, I don't think WWE will ever collapse or fall, but what I can say, and what probably might happen, is eventually heads have to be, gotten rid of. Eventually debts have to be collected. The man comes around eventually. Yeah. And with WWE, that might happen sooner rather than later. Now, we've heard tales about WWE being sold, but like, here's the thing. The network is what it is, right? I have a network subscription because I use it for the show, and I like watching the older stuff, and it is worth it in that sense. However, though, eventually people are going to stop watching the TV show. I've almost completely stopped watching the TV show, almost exclusively. I just don't have the time or the interest.
I've completely stopped watching. Yeah,
and that's fair. But as I said, a lot of people now, how many people watch the show? Probably not that many. At what point are these TV executives going to step in and go, listen, this has to change?
Well, that's the interesting thing, because like with Fox, because of how much money they put into it, they have thrown the toys out of the pram, which is why SmackDown tends to be regarded as a better show than
it's a watchable show. Raw is not watchable at all. Raw is terrible.
But what's interesting is that apparently now the USA executives have I read the report on this not too long ago, where they where apparently they want to see a change in presentation. Now again, it's just a report, so it could be BS. And personally, I don't think that like a mature presentation is the issue. It's a quality issue. It doesn't matter what demographic you're going after. The fact of the matter is it's PG, but the majority of their viewers are over 50. And when
and you know what,
when
that surprises a lot of people too. Sorry for interrupting you, Brin, but that's a lot of people. A lot of people are surprised by that. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, but when like again, that's a when your core audience is a 50+ thing. And this was a thing that people may took issue with Impact not too long ago as well, by the way, where Absolutely. They were saying it was that the age of the audience watching is too old. And that is very much a case here. And like, while it's not, now you could probably say that the younger audience probably aren't watching TV. Maybe they're watching on the network. Maybe they're watching, maybe they're watching through YouTube, watching through other social media things, and that's entirely possible, you know.
But here's an interesting. Well, on that point, there's an interesting fact, right? And I noticed it again while I said I wasn't watching Raw, but I watched some of it just to kind of see how bad it actually was. And they release their ads that they run and the way they present it. The past is cooler than the present.
Yeah.
For the WWE, no one is a star in WWE, right?
But they don't.
No one. Yeah, no one
is
is
stars.
Yeah, not only that, but like, there's nobody who's a star.
Yep.
Like, no one.
Yeah.
Goldberg shows up and it's like, okay, yeah, he's gonna pop it, but no one has interest because Goldberg sucks.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you know,
this is like, and we like, again, it's been a while since myself and you talk wrestling, so there's like a bunch of things that I'll throw in here now. Again, like,
for sure,
they don't want people being stars, and one of these can point to go, well, this is, you can see that they don't want people being stars because they tried to get rid of everyone's Twitch accounts. Yeah. While during lockdown, and they did that because that was a side hustle for those guys. And they were making money, and they had to do something because they were all on their downside guarantee, which is basically the money they're gonna make if they're not doing house shows.
Yeah,
you know. So if they're not doing house shows, they're not making extra money because they're not selling merch and they're not doing X, Y, and Z. But so like they were trying to replenish that kind of income by doing Twitch and the like, and then they came after them, and you know, like. I mean, the whole independent contractor argument is something that we're going to see. I think it's far from done at this point. I would say, especially with the current administration in place in America, we might actually see some more stuff on that. Might see more stuff on that in the future. But
look, I don't see any big change happening in WWE ever, unless Vince McMahon is replaced or finished, because at the end of the day, he can run that the way he wants, and that's what's happening. I hate to do this because it's so internet smarky, but when you can see it's true. And here's the thing: I've seen it in place. I've seen it with my own eyes in TNA when it was TNA in the dark side. I've seen what this looks like.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can say pretty much, I remember going into a room, not naming names. I remember going into a room and being asked after the show, and I think it was in Manchester or Liverpool, I can't remember. And they're like, Darragh, what do you think of the show? And then I went through and was explaining the good and the bad side of what happened. And the eyes glazed over. Yep. And then I was like, here you go, here's a drink. I'm like, okay. It's like, at the end of the day, they don't want to hear this. They just want to do their show.
But as well as that, it's... I think when, TNA's always has had a historical issue with feedback anyway. Like Lance Storm talked about this at length, where he'd said, like, you know, he used to give feedback extensively to both Impact and to Ring of Honor at the same time. You know, where he would go I don't know if it was minute to minute, but he'd pretty much be like, "This is good, that's bad, that guy's gear is good, that guy's gear is bad," you know, and kind of run through it like that. He said, like, it's like Impact, you'd never hear anything back from them. They didn't want to hear anything. They just went, okay, great, thanks, Lance. And he eventually stopped doing it. But Ring of Honor as officials themselves, much more receptive to feedback, much more receptive to it. But not just that, but wrestlers there And you can imagine who some of the wrestlers, like, again, we're talking, this was a story that broke in 2014. So we're talking like a period of like 2011 to 2013, probably, of wrestlers who would have been on the independent circuit in Ring of Honor.
Well,
and you can think of them
Brin,
who would have gone, I want feedback. But that's just not happening.
But the overarching point on that is, it didn't matter who that. Like, here's the thing: it sounds like that was a very WWE approach, which is what Impact tried to do. They tried to basically be WWE in approach.
They baked out them, you know.
Yeah, but here's the thing: when you move away from your core fan base or people who brought you to the dance, they're the ones that keep you afloat when times get hard.
Yep.
And now we're seeing this with WWE, where times are hard for a lot of people.
Yep.
And when they should be focusing on, even though they made record profits last year, which they did because they managed to stay open during a pandemic and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm saying to you is, when times get hard, and they will eventually get hard, but people can't afford the WWE network and all they have is the network television deals. If those numbers aren't great, and they're not, they are pretty terrible. It's going to bite them.
The network numbers in of themselves are like the streaming service numbers in of themselves aren't stellar. They're not like
they're not.
They're not anything close to what they thought they were going to get. They thought they were going to get 1 million subscribers before they even went to other markets, and they didn't get close. And then I think they needed 1 million subscribers to break even. Anything after that, they're making profit. I haven't looked at the numbers in years, but I would say that they're still in a very similar spot now, where they're still trying to make a cost-effective show, and they've made it free to play and stuff now. They've made a free tier and stuff. Yeah,
they've done tiers, and to be fair, like, it's a great app. They've vastly improved it. It's one of those things that, as a wrestling fan, I would say, look, it's worth it. Even just to watch the older content and kind of dig through and that kind of stuff. But what's bizarre about it is they have this great product, they have this great platform, and then on the other hand, they have this fucking terrible show. And you're like, okay, well, eventually you're going to run out of that content, because it's kind of like, so what are you going to do in a couple of years? Eventually you're just going to have nothing to replace what's there. Like, I can honestly say, hand on heart, I haven't gone back and watched anything from like 2013, before 2000, like after 2013. I just haven't. Yeah. I've had no interest.
Basically around the time when the Shield broke up is when you just you won't go back.
Well, when the Shield broke up, or when Punk left or whatever, and it wasn't even because my favorite wrestlers left or whatever. It was more a case
he left Royal Rumble
2013,
2014.
2014. So it was in around that. But what I mean is, like, that's when characters stopped. That's when big names kind of stopped being a thing. So with the result, there was nothing really to kind of go back to. Because, like, I remember when, and even now, like, doing the rewind, you remember how good wrestling is. You remember how good it can be, and you remember why you were a wrestling fan in the first place.
Yeah, but that was why, even back in the day when I started doing the desk with you, I was always very, very much like, I love watching indie wrestling because that's where I get a joy for watching wrestling from. Like, and I would still say the analogy to an extent still holds through, where like watching indie wrestling is where you see, like, and when I say indie, I'm not talking like AEW or like, by the way,
you mean AEW actual indie?
Like, I mean like actual indie, where you are talking like the likes of Ring of Honor, or you're talking about like an over the top wrestling over here, or you're talking Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, or whatever, and again, like, those are some of the bigger indies. But like, if you're talking like even at that level, that's kind of like where you see like you tend to see more of what wrestling is and what wrestling can be. And I think there's a certain level of enjoyment in watching wrestling that does that for you. But
it's even more what wrestling should. It's even more what wrestling should be. You know what? Like, I would, no pun intended, but I would wrestle with that idea, because like,
it's kind of like, to me, saying this is what, like, saying that, like, if we're going to say like British strong style as like a subgenre is how wrestling should be, just arbitrarily picking it out of the ether. That's to me, that's like saying that the kind of music Clutch makes, like that kind of blues rock music, is what music should be.
Well, I understand your point. I was more referring to the fact that there shouldn't be this disdain for your fan base.
Oh yeah.
There shouldn't be this massive negativity towards it, and that's what indie wrestling doesn't have, because it understands. It's like, look, it's more like anything indie. You go see a small band play, and they're usually not dicks, but you go see a bigger band, and they could be absolute dicks. It's that difference. Yeah,
it's to put this into kind of like another form as well. It's kind of like the difference between reading a comic book that's been written by Grant Morrison and reading one that's been written by Mark Miller. You know,
oh, that's a good point.
One clearly loves comics, and the other one seems to really hate comics. Like,
yeah,
you know,
that's a very good point. Yeah, like, Mark Miller is. Yeah.
Why does he? Like, I've never read anyone else who works in comic book industry who seems to hate comics so much. Like,
Alan Moore. Alan Moore hates what they do to
Alan
comics.
Moore didn't always hate comics. Mark Miller seems to have always hated comics.
Yeah, and look, I love Alan Moore, but he's very annoying sometimes. It's like, dude, stop, come on, you know.
No, but Alan Moore is basically Bret Hart. He always loved comics, but he just hated the industry that spawned from it.
Well, actually, that's a very good point at the moment, because the comic industry, and we'll kind of move away a little bit from wrestling, I suppose, for the next half an hour of the show. The comic industry is in a lot of trouble.
It is, yeah.
Like serious trouble. And we kind of been saying this for a while, but like, as somebody who would regularly buy comics, actually, I tried to buy Batman Tales from the Dark Multiverse #1. Yeah. I couldn't do it. I had to actually get it on eBay, so I actually did get it on eBay. But the Irish places that you normally go, Brin Planet, Subsidia, all kind of stuff, found it very difficult. Big Bang, surprised.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know, I'll say to anyone listening now, guys, try and support the local comic book industries, because they won't be there if we don't. And that's why I tried to do it first. But I was surprised that I couldn't actually order from those places. Now, obviously, with the pandemic and all that kind of stuff, you know, they're obviously adapting to like delivery and stuff like that, but still, it was very hard to get this specific book, which only came out like 23rd of December. Yeah. So like, that's very recently. Very recent, but that's how limited these runs actually seem to be, which for me is a massive red flag. I'm like, wow, you're not printing as much.
Well,
so
the word around the campfire is that both of the big players, Marvel and DC, want to move almost entirely into digital.
Yeah,
and they don't want to.
Well,
because again, there's more profit to be made digitally for them.
Well, again, when I was looking for this book, and again, this is the first kind of comic that I bought in a while. I just, you know, I canceled my pull list over 3 years ago and saved myself an awful lot of money in the process. Like, you know how many comics I was buying at one point, dude. It was ridiculous. And you know, I have a good couple of runs, but there's nothing really that grabbed me after it, so I didn't really miss it. But anything dark multiverse is like right up my alley. So I wanted to get this book, and I really like the Metal series. But yeah, when I was looking for it, I could get it on Comixology, I could get it on Kindle, I could get it, all these places. You could actually get it very easily, except in physical print edition. So to be fair, now I can kind of see what you're saying is right, where you're going to move towards this. But me as a comic reader, I don't mind reading. Like, I've come around to reading on a tablet or an iPad or a Kindle like that. They're fine. I can get around it now. I don't like reading. I can do it with comics as well, but I don't personally now. I wouldn't pay $4 cover price for something on a tablet. No. Like a comic. I just wouldn't do it. Well, I just wouldn't do it. I pay €2, no problem. But absolutely not. Yeah. Because here's the thing, and I'll tell you why. Before you jump in, I'll tell you why. Because when you buy a Marvel or DC book, you usually get a digital copy included. So that's why.
There's a bunch of things I'd throw in there as well. First and foremost, when you go onto Amazon to buy a book for your Kindle, these could like most of those kind of books you can get for like a $5.
Yeah,
it's got a hell of a lot more information in it than a single issue.
Yep, for sure.
Like to spend this has been like the cost of comics has been one of the major issues I've had with it. Because like the prices of it have gone just like through the roof. Like, yeah,
it's not cheap.
It's
not cheap.
Like, I mean, because one of the things was, I think we were talking about this as well in an episode not too long ago. But like, one of the main reasons why why manga sells so much better now than it did here is because manga is a hell of a lot cheaper. There's more of it, and like. Because it's not printing onto premium paper. It's very like manga is very cheap to run comparatively. I mean, like, and again, when those books are like, and I think the thing that I have an issue with as well on digital editions especially is they're not like if everything goes digital with them in terms of like the artwork is digitally made and digitally rendered. And they're just creating basically like a digital, they're just creating a digital copy and they're just putting it on Comixology or whatever. Like, it's not massively like outside of the labor that went into making the pages of the book. It's not expensive because there's no medium for it to exist in. It's just saved as a digital file that will frankly be. They'll probably be captured in like megabytes of data, if even. Like
books themselves are not even megabytes.
Yeah, but like I mean, again, like digital art is going to have a bit more data in it because it's image, but still, it's going to be like you're not talking about a huge amount of data being put into it.
So you got 25 pages compressed down. You're probably looking at maybe 10 megs.
Yeah.
So
really
not that much.
And like even then, like that's 10 megs for one book. I'm like, well, that's not like. I mean,
well, it brings to the other thing as well, right? Well, you can go on to websites and get that.
Yeah.
And have it in probably less time than if you were to just buy it, which is another problem that you have to have. And we've talked about this as well. Piracy exists because it's easy and it's quick.
Yep.
And what I would say is a Netflix for comics.
Yeah, but that's what Comixology is supposed to be.
It's supposed to be. It's not.
Yeah, but it's what's supposed.
It's not. It's like it's a great idea and a great service, but my God, expect them full price for comics.
No.
Digitally, no way, man. Like, here's the thing. Like, obviously, I've been personally going through a lot of my stuff, right? As in, like, behind me and there, just wall and walls of comics. So I'm kind of happy enough to move away from physical media for the most part and just kind of keep what I want. But when it comes to comics, bag and boarding them, there's certain runs you want, and having the option is great. But if you're going to do it that way and move directly towards that kind of thing, because look, people aren't going to pay it because they still have that. Like for me, even with games, I'm kind of like, I wouldn't pay full price for a digital game as I would a physical game. I don't know. Maybe I'm a boomer or whatever, but
I get that though. I get that.
Yeah, it's just that kind of thing. It doesn't have that same emotional impact.
It's the difference between listening to a song on Spotify and buying the vinyl.
Absolutely, that's actually a very good point. Yeah, like I love Spotify. I don't love Spotify. I kind of hate Spotify, but it is really handy.
Yeah.
But Spotify is 10. 12 euro. I don't know.
It's like it's 15 if you've got the family pack. Pack.
Okay, I think it's like it's like 12 euro for me a month.
12 euro. It's not a
it's
relatively inexpensive.
It's not a lot. And look, it's grand. And here's the thing: it's super handy, and the free tier is there, and that kind of stuff. Now, what would make sense to me, just spitballing, if there was a similar thing rolled out where you bought tier packages for, like, say, $10 gets you.
Yeah.
Even call it the pull list, right? You get your pull list. You know, at time my pull list was costing me about €35 a week, which you can imagine how expensive that got.
Yeah.
So let's kind of just bring it down, right? 15 bucks a month, right? For your pull list, say $6. That's okay. That's actually not bad. Or 12 bucks just to make so you have something to read every week.
Yeah.
I think that would be a much better approach than expecting someone to pay €5 a go when you can literally go onto a website and get them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, I think, yeah, like I think like I always think in terms of trades, because that's how when I got back into like actually finding stuff I wanted to spend money on, I was happier spending money on a trade.
For sure.
You know, and I find that like if I'm gonna part money with it, I'd prefer to get the trade anyway. But like I think if you're going, well, like, you know, basically for the, you know, if we're going to like really Netflix or Spotify this out, for the cost of one trade, you get access to all this library.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
like,
and that's it. It's not. Well, look, I'll give you another one as well, right?
Trades go for what, like £20 now? You know,
Depends what you go for.
Yeah.
You know, they're usually about $20 though. And to be fair, I like trades. I kind of prefer them more than because you kind of read them. But on that point, like Curiosity Stream, I got a subscription there for €8 for the year. Now, look, it is what it is. It's Curiosity Stream is great because it's basically like what History Channel used to be before they discovered Pawn Stars and Storage Wars
and Ancient Aliens.
So, like for me, I was like, you know, I heard that the selling point was it was old History Channel, and then I watch it and I'm like, whoa, it's old History Channel, which is, for me, I love it. Like, I don't know, you know, you probably remember when you were a kid or a teenager and you'd be sick from school or whatever, and you'd literally watch the History Channel and Discovery Channel. So whenever I was sick as a child, that usually meant Lord of the Rings was going on my PlayStation for a marathon. For sure. But yeah, but for me anyway, it kind of captures that feeling. And my dad's a big fan of it too. Like he loved the History Channel. And when I got it, I'm like, here, I put it on the Roku box and I'm like, here, you need to watch this. And I go on and he watches more than I do because it's literally like what the History Channel was, right? Before it was just all Ancient Aliens and Pawn Stars and all that stuff, which, look, don't get me wrong, like I kind of like Storage Wars, it's fun, Pawn Stars is fun, and you know, Ancient Aliens is gas, but it's like, can we just get a good documentary on Pompeii? Yeah. You know, can we just bring it back a bit, you know?
Yeah. What would it kill you to do a series on the anthropological history of early man?
Well, here's the thing. And I don't want this to turn into an ad for Curiosity Stream, but you know, hey, if you want to support us, go for it.
We'll also do Nebula as well. If that's,
we'll do Nebula. We'll even do Raid, Shadow Legends. You know, just for the lulz. But anyway, but with Curiosity Stream, what's great about it is like they kind of do everything. So it's not only like they do World War II, they do technology. They have a really good stuff on cyber war. They do stuff on nature, but also they do a phenomenal series even on like history of cities. So they do a great one on France through the ages. And it's just like, this is brilliant. And the thing about it is like the CEO even contacts you to be like, hey, here's our mission statement. So I've never actually had a streaming service that has a mission statement other than we want your money, give us your money. Yeah. Why aren't you giving us your money now? You know? And we've talked a lot about Shudder on this channel. Shudder's cool, but I think this is more beneficial. Like it's it's 40% off now at the moment. Pick it up for $8. You will not be disappointed. For the year, yeah.
That's awesome.
Right? It's 40% off now. Just go get it. Like it's I honestly I don't regret it. I'll be honest with you, I regret Shudder a little bit. Because it's like you can pretty much get through everything you want in about a week, but then they do kind of replenish it, so we'll see if it's worth at the end of the year. I'll let you know. But with Curiosity Stream, it's $8. That's nothing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, so that's an Amazon Prime subscription. Actually, can we speak about Amazon Prime real quick? Because my god, right. So obviously Brexit happened, right?
Yeah.
Fine. Why did Amazon decide to screw themselves up completely? Even Amazon Prime. Yeah. It's like, why did you geo block everything Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
You know, so it's funny. I've noticed this now. Amazon themselves, they kind of have a way now where you order stuff and then you'll get a delivery, which is about a week out. So even if you have Prime, it's a week out. So it's like, all right, fair enough, whatever. We'll let that go. They've geo-blocked pretty much their entire back catalogue for the time being, which I think is a pretty bad move because what's going to happen mainly is you're going to have a massive loss in subscriptions.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, I think one of the main reasons why they're doing that is because they're trying to figure out what the distribution path is.
they absolutely are, but they had 4 years.
Yeah, but
They had 4 years to figure this out.
Yeah, but
And you're like, what were you doing for 4 years? Like, you know? And here's what's crazy, right? I don't know what it is. Look, in the rest of Europe, fine, but I don't consider Ireland part of Europe because it's really not. And I'll go on record now and say I think Ireland should not have geo-blocks standing in England because it kind of owned us for 800 years. Why can't we get the iPlayer? Right? It's like, come on, man. Like, what's going on?
We demand the iPlayer as part of reparations.
Exactly. iPlayer, no geo-block is reparations. It's like, oh, you can come in and take over us for 800 years, but you can't give us the iPlayer. It's like, come on. Like, why wasn't this argued? Yeah,
you can't
it's
give
like
us your Poxy BBC sounds, but
Exactly.
I want your BBC sounds.
exactly. And I'm just like, why has nobody set up and said, right, lads, come on, like, what are you doing? So for me, I just think it's ridiculous. Now, obviously, there are ways around it. You can get a VPN, which you should. Again, any VPN place want to sponsor us, we'll do that too. Yeah. But you can build a VPN server on a Raspberry Pi called RasApp. You can do that, or you can just buy one on Amazon. You can get a ready-made router and pop a OVA file or OVPN file onto it. But yeah, listen, lads, we should probably get this going where it's like, hey, iPlayer for Ireland has reparations, right? Because I don't know why that wasn't argued. Seriously, it's like, come on.
Like streaming services weren't a thing 100 years ago when they were making the.
Well, I don't know why they haven't brought this up. I'm just like, listen, I have to use a VPN to watch this. It's it's ridiculous. But yeah, now trying to watch Amazon Prime is kind of a bit of a disaster, and I've had to. I've been asked by family members to be like, "Hey, can you make me a VPN box?" So I've had to learn how to do that.
Yeah,
which is like not something I wanted to do, particularly when I'm in the middle of exams. But hey, Linux is a thing, and it's fun, and you should learn to do it.
Everyone should learn how to do Linux.
Everybody should learn to do Linux. Actually, great channel recommendation for yourself, Brin, and for the listeners if you have any interest. There's a great channel called Network Chuck.
His content's great.
His content is unbelievable. Great. Like if you're into hard, not even. I've sent it to people who are in the industry, and I've sent it to people in general to be like, hey, this guy's great, and he's the most approachable guy.
He makes networking understandable to me,
but also fun. He has this really cool approach, and his coffee apparently is pretty cool. So I'm gonna buy his coffee and see what's up about that because I know I really admire the guy. I think it's such a cool niche that he's gone for, but a niche that's so there.
It's so interesting though because like his whole thing was like a way for him to study and learn and to kind of like churn out his like re-deliver information he was learning for himself, and he's turned it into a whole thing now, which is awesome, but like it's weird because usually when like this, and I've known this as people who have kind of reskilled to go into the industry from scratch, basically it's not an easy climb. So for somebody to have that outlook is very admirable, but then to actually see the content be good is even more admirable because like usually you'll get some good content, but it'll have blasting techno music and someone eating a microphone and all this kind of stuff where you're like, I just want to know how to configure this file, please. And then you'll find Network Chuck and he's there like, oh, here's how root tables work, here's how to here's what you should learn. Like he did a video that I actually wanted to do about how to get into IT last week, 2 weeks ago. And it's literally stuff that I've said to people. I'm like, here's how to do it. You don't need all this, you just need these things. And it's cool to see. And I must say, like, if you haven't checked it out, and even for people who are like, a lot of people have lost their jobs during the pandemic. A lot of people are probably not going to be able to work on certain things again. Go for it, man. Like,
go check out Network Chuck. Watch that video. I'll link it below because I think, you know, if you're watching it on YouTube or whatever, and check it out. I think it's a really good resource. Or even if you know anybody you haven't, it was one of the first things that I thought of when I was watching it. I was like, this is a really cool service for people. But I love his content. I think he's great. So if you're in any way inclined to learn any technical stuff, including getting the VPN so you can get the iPlayer until we get our reparations, go over to Network Chuck. So we should get that like trending. We should like properly like do that. I think it'd be hilarious.
I just don't know if,
maybe
I think even if it was just like, you know, kind of like I'd like to do something where it's kind of like just like a play on the repeal marches.
Absolutely.
Where, you know, like
we want the iPlayer, and just that's it. Or if you get some shirts that says
the iPlayer, when do we want it now?
Eventually. Oh man, no, that would be funny. Yeah, no, I've never personally understood that. I'm like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, we're right beside you, you know.
Absolutely. Like,
it's like, oh, you can spread your new strain of COVID over here, but we can't watch Doctor Who without VPN. Like, come on. I
was gonna say, like, you know, get someone to do like a parody version of The Sound of Silence and call it The Sound of BBC Sounds.
I mean, like, here's the thing. I really like the iPlayer too. It's just, I will have to say that all four is like
great, man.
Yeah, here's the thing. If all four gets geo-blocked, man, then I'll be upset because that's my actual favorite of the lot. Like, take away all the rest of them, and I'd be upset if all four goes. 'Cause look, you get The Simpsons, you get Undercover Boss. That's all you need, man.
But, I mean, but as well as that, like, the selection of stuff is great because, like,
it's unbelievable. Have movies and everything. Which is
their
great.
Film 4 movies are great. In my opinion, Channel 4 has made the best sitcoms of the last 20 years.
Oh, easily.
Like, hands down. It's barely a competition.
It's like, without even with one hand tied behind their back, being kicked over the head every couple of times, they still managed to come out with some phenomenal content. Yeah, and it's all for free, which is even wilder.
What's crazy as well is if you were going, but I hate the ads on all four. Yeah, well, if you spend €4 a month, you get rid of the ads. All right.
Hold on, like, for ads, right? Ads. Okay, right. On the RTE player, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen,
look, the RTE player is made by someone who hates the people of Ireland.
Okay, hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, you pay for the RTE player through a tax, right?
Yeah.
And they
it doesn't
can't
work.
And it doesn't work. No, it does. Hold on, right? It doesn't work on the desktop. It doesn't work on mobile. For some reason, it works incredibly well on the Roku box. I don't understand it. It's like the one thing that it works on. I was using it. I'm like,
you mean the one box most people in Ireland don't have?
Yeah, the only way you can get a Roku box is to go in and spend €60 for it, or order it in a roundabout way through Amazon. Which is just like, and I was going through it. I'm like, wait, why is this so decent? This works. Yeah, to be fair, there are like 116 million ads. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, so whoever made the RTE player, like, seriously, this is what we get. We get like terrible episodes of everything. For the one, and I actually wanted to watch the news on it one time, right? And it's the one, it won't let you watch live TV on the Roku box. You're like, this is a joke. This whole thing is just a piss take of what a streaming service is. Yeah. But like, they should, they should use it in colleges to show how bad a product is.
Yeah. It's an undergrad's failing project.
Oh yeah, it's like, does it work? Yeah, but it doesn't deliver anything. You know, like compared to like all four should be the standard that all these kind of apps go for, and that was probably made on a shoestring budget by like 4 people. Yeah, the RTE player cost millions. Yeah, it cost millions. Yeah.
Absolutely, but like I think the thing that was about, like, because like back when all 4 was 4OD, like, it's been around for like a really long time.
Long time.
They were making that back when the idea of doing digital recordings from a skybox was a newfangled thing. You know, it's been around a long time, and I think that's probably what's helped it to become so good now, is that like it's had probably like the longest time in a rolling release format. So it could be really really bad in 2009.
Well, true, but hold on. It is 2021, right? Let's just look at it this way, right? What does an app, and we're not going to get into deep app design here because neither one of us are really developers or not that, right? But here's all you need to do it, right? Some AWS servers, a script to pull stuff back and forward, Elasticsearch, and then something to pump it out, and that's it. There you go. That's your app. That's all you need, right? You could actually, I will take a thing. Some undergrads probably could make it for a project, and it would probably work better. That's why you said the failing one, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah,
you know.
But what's really interesting about the RTE player is that the things that work really well on it are the ads.
Yeah, the ads always work, and you can't block them. Like they
don't need buffering time either.
No, they don't. They just start. Tell you, if you want to get 16 ads for Brendan's bread, you're going to get them. You're going to get the same ad. Oh no! And look, here's the thing. I don't understand why you need an ad for Brendan's bread or for butter. It's like people are going to buy that anyway. Like it's the most redundant ad in history. It's like trying to sell milk bread or milk bread or butter to Irish people is just ridiculous. Like that's all we live on.
I'd put tea on that list as well.
Tea is on that list as well. It's like you don't need to advertise this. It's already there. You're born with it. Like come on.
It's in the shops. We're gonna buy it.
We're gonna buy it, exactly. It's just you don't need to advertise. So the fact you get like 4 ads for Brennan's bread, and then 4 ads for Kerrygold, and then 4 ads for Avonmore milk, you're like, this is all stuff that you buy the first time. Like you go to the shop and pick up first. I don't need ads for this. You know, advertise something else. But anyway, that's it. And they're always crystal clear as well. No buffering time. Perfectly ready to go. And then what's funny about it is, the TV license has already paid for this, so why are they advertising? Ridiculous. I don't understand this, guys. We're just asking questions. We're just asking questions.
Yeah. Well, that's like that's the thing, though, is that like they say, well, you know, like to have a competitive service with the BBC, we need to have ads to do. And I go, well, we're not asking you to compete with BBC. We're asking you to just do things properly. And they go, well,
we're not even asking for the iPlayer. We're not even asking for the RTE player. We're asking for the iPlayer. We're asking for access to it. Is there any way we can be like, can we use our TV license to get the iPlayer instead? Because that actually works. You know, even with a VPN, it still works. I mean, again,
the thing that's crazy is that like when you compare, like even I would say like, you know, I think that comparing like RTE to BBC is unfair for a litany of reasons. But
it's fun though.
Like, it is fun. But what I would say is that like, even if we're not comparing it, it doesn't take a huge amount. It doesn't take a huge amount to look at what's happening in RTE and go, hang on a second. So you have more revenue streams than any other commercial broadcasting station, and yet you're in debt.
Yeah,
how does that happen?
Well, here's one for you. One for you, right? TV3 go out, or Virgin Media. I think I said this with Red Rock. I was watching Red Rock, and I'm like, this is one of the best shows I've seen. How did you do this with no money? You know, it's just, I don't understand it. And I'm like, you know, you'd make Fair City, which is terrible, and you get loads of it. Like, even though we've been on it, and, you know, we worked on it for like, 2 or 3 years. And I was like, even at the time, you knew it was a complete piss take. But you're like, it shouldn't be. Because with Red Rock, you're like, they're actually taking this seriously. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
But as well as that, like, I mean, the budget of Fair City is comparable to, I think it's Coronation Street.
Coronation Street, yeah.
Which has, like, the things that Coronation Street does with its budget is staggering comparatively, you know? Like, but what I think is really interesting is, so like, you compare Virgin Media. Let's go for something that's really not. Let's go for
Tina
something
G.
that's like TG Caher is head and shoulders a better station.
Tina G. Like, here's the thing, right? And I'll
TG
say this
Caher's
now.
brilliant,
Look,
man.
even if it gets us in trouble, right? Whatever. Tina G should be getting the funding.
Yeah.
Not RTE, because like even to, like they start doing now where they'll go and do the Irish news before 6-1, and it looks better. It's presented better. Everyone looks like they're actually invested, and it doesn't offend the eyes. As far as like presentation wise, it actually looks pretty decent.
It's
and
very
I'm like,
modern looking.
It's very modern looking. It doesn't look like it's from 2005, and it's just like, listen, just fund these guys. Like, is RTE just going to waste it? So again, that's another thing. We want reparations for the iPlayer the iPlayer reparations and fund Tina G, because it's a lot better. And that's just let us know.
Tina G already has its funding. But
but it gets table scraps.
If it's with its table scraps, it's doing so well for itself. Like I watched not too long ago. They have, and I say this with utmost sincerity. They did a perfect dub of Shrek in pure
Samurai Jack too,
pure Irish, and
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Samurai Jack as well.
Samurai Jack,
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Clone Wars,
Justice League.
Justice League. Man. It's like and their movies are great as well. Black 47, they funded it. Yeah. It's like do you actually care? They did. All the Harry Potter's been dubbed into Irish as well by them. Like they've done. I mean, these are not small feats. Like, and people could go, well, TV shows, whatever. It's like, but you have no idea how expensive dubbing is. Like, look, it may be TV shows, but when you're competing for funding. Yeah. Like, okay, right. Okay, actually, hold on. Let's just. I mean, we'll wrap it up here because we only have 5 minutes left. In a time where you're saying, okay, it's only a TV show. What have RTE done?
Yeah.
Nothing. They do nothing. An app that doesn't work or works when when you have to choke your browser to actually work, or shows that nobody watches because they're terrible. So it's like, well, there you go. Actually, no. You know what they've done? No, what they've done? RTE Gold, which they want to get rid of. RTE Gold's a good station, and they want to get rid of it as digital. It's like, man, come on, come on.
But I suppose that one of the things that they're doing as well is that they have they keep trying to get in the likes of it's like what's those 2 podcast guys they have now? I can't think of the name anyway, but they keep trying to get in these young guys, these people that were going to get people from the 1835s to watch, but then they completely hamstring them and go, well, no, this is what we're doing with you, because
like
under
WWE.
Under no circumstances can you show your actual personality on RTE.
Yeah. Look, and
under no circumstances can people find you enjoyable.
And here's the thing, the free market, if you took away the funding from it and they had to survive, they'd get very creative very, very quick. Like, it is what it is. It's the indie mentality. You've got to, adapt.
They'd get very out of business very, very quick.
But that's the market solves all. And RTE, by hanging on, is just like, come on. Like, it is what it is. Like, we do this show with no budget, and it has better production values than most things on RTE. So, it just is what it is. Yeah. Anyway, so assuming we don't get kicked off the radio for what we just said, hopefully we won't. Thank you for checking us out on Phoenix 92.5 FM. We are here on YouTube. We're on Twitch. Thanks to your support. Please subscribe if you do. We should have the guys back next week. I don't know what's going on. The guys are taking a break off this week. We have a bunch of stuff got to do with a whole new content coming out as well. Rewind is back up next week. Doing for the exposures back up next week. I think Cian has the Game Corner coming back, and Anime Crash Course, and also Straight Out Kanto as well. They're going to be bombarding us with content soon. So do stay on the channel. Brin, is there anything you want to plug before we wrap up?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but yeah, like if you feel the need to get in touch with me, you can get in touch with me on Twitter at CastBrainCast, and that'll probably do it for me for this week in terms of plugs. So
absolutely. All right, guys. Well, do keep an eye on the Rewind as well, because Brin will be joining us for our year in review best of show, which is going to happen probably next week, but we'll let you know. Join us on social media so we can keep you up to date there. So until next week, guys, this has been Nerd to Know Basis. See you later. Bye.
Check out the Wrestling Rewind here on Phoenix 92.5 FM every Tuesday at 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And of course, over on nerdtoknowmedia.com, the only wrestling podcast by wrestling fans who don't hate wrestling. We'll see you then.
Welcome to Overtime here on Nerd to Know Media.